Welcome everyone back to #lawyered. You're in for a treat today. Although make sure it doesn't have too much olive oil, it's not too sugary, it's high in fiber. Just kidding. I'm not Tanya Zuckerbrot. Anyway, we are digging into the F-Factor fiasco with the defamation experts, if you will, and the reputation management gurus, Dave Wishnew and T.J. Jones of Crawford Wishnew Lang. So buckle up, get your matching pink pen and pink notebook or whatever you're taking notes on, and seriously take notes. This is a really great one, and you'll use it at your next Zoom happy hour. Welcome back, everyone. We are joined today by our special guest, Dave Wishnew and T.J. Jones of Crawford Wishnew and Lang. And of course, you have Austin and Andrea back in studio, and our guests live and over some streaming platform, LinkedIn, Zoom, I don't know, one of those two.
I think we're on Zoom. I know we've been excited to have these guys on. The great thing about TJ and Dave, we work with them, we've worked cases with them, but they're also good friends of ours. So guys, thank you guys very much for being here.
Happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, did you ever think in your whole lives that you'd be on a podcast speaking out about a popular women's diet that started off being something that New York mommy influencers were getting into?
Sounds like a lot of fiber.
Indeed, it is a lot of fiber.
Dave, somebody had to make that joke. I'm glad you're the one that started us off. Appreciate that.
All right, well, gentlemen, why don't you give us a bit of your backgrounds, right? So I've already touted y'all as these reputation management experts, so I'm sure the audience wants to know why you're qualified for me to make that statement. So go ahead, pimp yourselves out. Tell us why you're the best.
Wow. TJ, I'll go first. I'm a litigator and trial lawyer.
Go for it.
I'm a business counselor. I'm born and raised in Texas. Did a little bit of college in Memphis, Tennessee, and several years in Austin before I started my practice up here in 2008. I handle a wide range of cases, business, employment, intellectual property, a little more plaintiff than defense, but we like both sides. And TJ and I have practiced together for several years. He's a superstar beyond his years. And, TJ's first trial was a trial that happened to get a lot of press. And that was in our representation of Andrea Polito. TJ, you want to introduce yourself and maybe start talking a little bit about Andrea's case?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm T.J. Jones. I went to law school at Baylor, and right out of law school, started practicing here in Dallas, and shortly thereafter started working with Dave. I've been working with Dave ever since. We do primarily business litigation. The reputation management side of our business really came in after we represented Andrea, and really we've just had so many people come to us and just ask us questions about how to try to protect their reputation line. And so that really started at kind of a string of cases and really developed into a area where we specialize in helping people who've got significant platforms manage their reputation, both online, just in the public in general.
And TJ, just to kind of set up the case. So the Andrea Polito case was a big case here in Dallas. A lot of people knew about it. It got a lot of news coverage, which actually is part of the reason that the case got started in the first place, because of how big of a deal it became in the public eye. And so, and Andrea and I were talking, this is kind of what set you guys off and really spotlighted y'all as the defamation law firm, the reputation management law firm. So kind of like Dave was saying, let's kind of jump in and just lay the foundation for our audience here. Can you tell us a little bit about the background of how that case came into being?
Sure, absolutely. Andrea Polito, she came to my office a few days after an NBC News story had aired in which her clients, a husband and bride, had gone on NBC and said that she was holding their pictures hostage for an undisclosed fee, which was false. And that story itself went viral, in large part with the help of the defendant bride, who was a blogger with 100,000 collective followers. and there was lots of public shaming that went on. And you've got a single mom, a woman that built a business to be one of the most successful in Dallas. And after that video went viral, she never booked another wedding again. And this is my first plaintiff defamation case that I had taken. Defamation cases are the hardest that we have in our system. And we litigated for 2.5 years. TJ and I tried a 1-week jury trial. The jury came back in our favor with a $1.1 million jury verdict, including punitive damages. And from then, the attention and the media, the press kind of took over for a couple weeks, where TJ and I were quite busy doing what seemed like our closing argument over and over and over again.
Hey, sometimes you got to get the spotlight, right?
Just a little.
I mean, well deserved, obviously. But and really, I think this is a great segue into talking about, and TJ, maybe you can lay this out for us. People throw the word defamation around all the time, and that's one of the reasons, Andre, you and I discussed wanting to do this podcast, is because I think lawyers are guilty of just, let's sue them for defamation. And people don't really know what that means. So, TJ, could you give us the kind of a 30,000 foot overview of what defamation actually means in the law?
Absolutely. And we field calls like this all the time from people saying, I've been defamed online. I had a bad Yelp review, something like that. Defamation is the hardest civil cause of action to prove, and there are a few reasons for that. First, it is a false statement of, so not opinion, not, I didn't like the food. That is not a defamatory statement. When you see a online comment, it is defamatory if it is a false statement of fact made with the requisite degree of malice, and it causes injury. I mean, that's the hardest part of proving defamation, is damages.
Mm-hmm. And when you say malice, we know what you mean, but for the layman's terms, or, for Susie Q down the street who does interior design, what is malice?
So malice can mean different things for the individual that is claiming defamation. So malice can, mean a reckless statement. So a statement made without actually investigating what is the truth, or it can mean actual intent to harm. So the requisite intent. So when we talk about requisite intent, it is the actual malice, meaning the intent to, or publishing a statement without investigating. We call that reckless, without actually investigating whether or not the.
So basically, just to recap, just to break it down for our listeners, it's got to be a false statement of fact. You got to either intend for it to be to attack them, or you have to be so reckless and lack of investigation with the statement you made, and you've actually got to cause some type of damages to the person who you made the statement towards.
So
absolutely.
Then maybe,
and often, and Andrea, let me jump in real quick. I would just say one thing that's commonly confused, I would say, is libel and slander. Libel and slander are both forms of defamation. Libel is the written word, like you'd see in a magazine online, or that when it's published in the written form, and slander is just something that's spoken, such as like on a radio or a podcast. And when he gets into the intent to harm, that really has to do with who is the plaintiff a famous person or somewhat famous person, because you have to have a higher level of intent the more famous they are. I mean, that's kind of a short version way to say it. But the hardest thing that makes it the hardest is tying the statements that are made, the false statements that hurt you, to actual damages, to money damages. And that's the challenge, is tying someone's spoken or written word into something that has hurt you in your business, your reputation, subjected you to ridicule, hatred, that type of thing, translating that into money.
Well, excellent. Well, now that we've broken down the concept of defamation into libel and slander, I think our audience has a better concept, is now prepped to really dive in to the meat of the drama today of the F-Factor fiasco. So, I'm just going to give a quick recap for our listeners, right? So on August 24th, 2020, there was a New York Times article that was published called The Great Diet Crash. And in it described Emily Gellis Lande, who is an influencer on Instagram, posting about moderately priced clothing, cosmetics, all that fun stuff. And she started reposting anonymously screenshots of her conversations with women who were saying, Emily, oh my gosh, I went on F-Factor Diet and I suffered severe gastronomical distress, or I had severe red bumps that required biopsies, I so on and so forth. So they had all of these terrible, terrible issues, migraines, canker sores, hives.
Well, and just to cut in, because again, I was completely ignorant about this. What is the F-Factor diet?
Thank you so much for reminding me, Austin. It is a diet that is all about fiber. So specifically, y'all, I really need more coffee today. Anyway, the F-Factor diet is a diet that starts off requiring that their new users only eat 1,200 calories a day with a handful of GG crackers, so Scandinavian crisp bread, and then eventually you proceed and you just consume loads and loads of fiber in order to lose weight and maintain that weight loss and stay skinny. And a huge selling point of the line is that you can get your fiber easily in shakes or in bars by using the branded F-Factor powder, fiber, protein combination bars and powders. And it is these powders and these bars that a lot of women are alleging have given them all of these terrible reactions.
Okay, so the F-Factor, they put up this diet, and then of course they sell products to complement the diet, and then so what you're saying is that we've got a bunch of women who had tried to use the diet, and then they start reaching out to this influencer and talking about how this is negatively affecting them. And you said gastronomical
distress.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah.
They started having to go to doctors for all those types of things, and then that's kind of where the New York Times article picks up.
Exactly, and I would be remiss to say that the founder of this diet is a dietitian based out of New York named Tanya Zuckerbrot.
Okay. Awesome.
And that is the snapshot. It's devolved into loads of drama, loads of name calling, loads of trolling on all the socials, and it is very dramatic. I've read a lot of the screenshots. But where we have our reputation management experts coming in is that a lot of these women are actually terrified to come forward, and they don't want to get sued with a lawsuit. In fact, I've heard rumors of cease and desist letters going out, and a lot of these women are scared that, Tanya Zuckerbrot, who is massively successful and has all the lawyers in the world, will come after these women who are speaking out. So they're scared to say anything. They're scared to even file complaints with her company, and they're suffering in silence, according to Emily Gellis Lande, the influencer who's been reposting these anonymous screenshots. So Dave and TJ, I would like you guys to speak on, are these women right to be scared about coming forward and publicly posting about their terrible reactions that they allege are a result of the F-Factor products? And is Ms. Lande, getting herself into a pickle by reposting these statements, especially when they're unverified?
Well, TJ, I'll go first. I mean, I don't know if scared is the word, but understand that, if someone has deep pockets, anyone can file a lawsuit, and that means you have to defend yourself, and defending yourself costs money. And that's the issue. Is you may be completely right in telling the truth and making statements of fact, and those statements of fact may hurt, but truth is the ultimate defense to defamation. But the problem is if you've got someone like this, the F-Factor creator who, lives in a, multi-million-dollar home and touts herself as being as successful as she is, they can throw teams of lawyers at you. And so, in that respect, it can, even if you are on the right side of things, it can put you in a very bad position. And for the influencer that's reposting, that's what a lot of people don't understand is you don't have to be the original author of the statement. If you repost it, if you take that statement and publish it out on your own media, you now can make yourself liable for defamation if the statements contained within what you published are false and injure the person. So yeah, I mean, but then again, you may not see lawsuits, because if someone defends a lawsuit, guess what I get? I get to find out, I get to dig into everything about that diet. I get to go search for the truth and discovery. And so there may be a lot of cease and desist, but they're going to be careful before filing that lawsuit, because if the right person defends it, then they get access to what is really happening with this diet.
And so, Dave, that's such a great point. I'm really glad you brought that up, because one of the points of contention that has come out into the blogosphere and the Insta world is that there are a lot of heavy metals and chemicals and lead in these powders and in these bars. So if this went to trial, would a attorney be able to dig and ask for documentation on these powders and these bars?
Absolutely. That's the discovery process of a case. And in that process, you get to take depositions, testimony under oath before a court reporter. You get to see documents. You have to, you can make the other side answer questions called interrogatories under oath, and serve them things that they have to admit or deny to. Now, these things are discovery tools, and you get a broad range of discovery, things that are, relevant to the case. It may not even be able to come in at trial, but you get access to it. And if someone's accused you of making a false statement, a defamatory statement, you have the right to get discovery from that person about all things related to that statement. And certainly that opens up that person and a company like this to having to pull back the kimono and showing what are in these products, what is really happening to these people.
Well, it sounds then like if there is any truth to these powders being questionable and maybe having bad substances in them, that, she might not want to have to get an actual lawsuit up and running. Who knows?
TJ, I got a question for you. You were talking about the actual malice component, and obviously we're talking about an influencer who receives comments from her followers and then she reposts them. What do you think? And look, we all know none of this stuff is black and white. That's the reason we all have jobs. But TJ, what do you think about the malice component when you've got an influencer just reposting some of these comments that are sent to her about this diet?
Especially when she has said that she's reposting these things because she doesn't want women to feel like they're suffering alone, and she wants them to understand that they can ask for help. Given that context, I just wanted to add that to Austin's question.
No, and that's a great question, guys, because when we talk about defamation, of course, the first thing you look at is the statement of fact that is false. So just assuming we have that here. So assuming we have people that are saying false things about the product, and that is getting reposted. Now, if that gets reposted by someone who is has a platform against someone who also has a platform, and it sounds like this founder of the F-Factor Diet does have a platform, then you have to prove that the speaker, so here it would be the person reposting the statement, because as Dave said, if you repost the statement, that's adopting it as your own. You can get sued for that, the statement of the person you're reposting. The person that is the subject of the defamation, so the diet program is a public figure, and then because she's a public figure, she has to prove that the speaker actual malice. And so that means that the person reposting acted recklessly to post the statement, or acted intentionally to harm the person who is the subject of the defamation, here the diet founder. So what we look at here is not necessarily intention to harm. So it's not, as she said, her intent was not to harm anyone. It was to, give a voice to the people that she saw as that didn't have a voice online. But where you come into a problematic situation, did she actually post that, investigating the claims, actually have, get both sides of the story? There's a reckless component there, that if she posted it recklessly, if she is reposting these reviews recklessly without investigating anything, then there's a potential there that is going to be considered actual malice. And if it's actual malice, then there is a possible there's a possible defamation claim there.
And I think that's a really good point to bring up. And I have a question. Would it make a difference in the malice component if Miss Land, who has never been on the F-Factor diet, if Miss Land hypothetically had gone on the F-Factor diet and had suffered severe gastronomical distress, canker sores, rashes, so on and so forth, and then she's reposting these things because she had experienced these same health maladies herself, allegedly as a result of the F-Factor products, would that make a difference in the malice component?
Possibly. That could possibly go to the reckless component. In other words, the difference there is you've got someone who doesn't have any experience with the product reposting anonymous reviews online without any investigation from what I've read, and then juxtapose that with a situation like you said, where it's someone who has actually tried the diet, actually had a bad experience, actually experienced the symptoms that others are experiencing. Now, again, each individual statement has to be considered, on its own. So each individual reposting could be a potential defamatory statement. And so if you're reposting something that is not your own, that is not a review. Posting someone else's statement about an experience with a product, that is not your opinion or your review of the product. That is someone else's, and you're adopting it as your own. And so I think it could possibly help on the reckless analysis, but ultimately I think that the answer would be no, that, because each individual statement is considered on its own. Dave, do you think differently?
I think you're correct, but I would also say this. Judges and juries are people too. And when you're presenting your case to a judge and to a jury, people want to pick who is on the good side of things and who is on the bad side of things. And when you have a personal experience with the product, I think that would tend to lend itself more more with telling the story and who a judge or jury find is right and wrong. And so I think you're absolutely right, except for the human element component of our judicial system and who decides, who wins civil cases.
And Dave, that point, along with what TJ was just analyzing a second ago, is one of the big reasons we wanted to bring this this topic onto our show, because obviously we live in a reposting world where people are retweeting, reposting Instagram posts. I mean, it's the subject of what we're doing here. So I'd be interested to hear from you, Dave. Have y'all experienced or dealt with any, and obviously no names, things like that, but have you dealt with any kind of reputation management with influencers or other people who have maybe engaged in this type of activity? Maybe not to this level, but have you guys been counseling anybody on this type of activity, and what kind of advice have you been giving them?
Yeah, absolutely, we have. After Andrea's case and the the press that followed, TJ and I would get tons of calls each week across the country, people experiencing, whether it was on social media or on news media, what they thought was defamation, and so we're very selective with our client, with who we take on, but we have of course received calls from influencers, from public figures, from those that are dealing with these types of issues, and helping them with reputation management can often mean steering them away from filing a defamation lawsuit. And because sometimes it can make things worse before it's better. It's harder, to unring that bell, can be difficult. And so sometimes it is counseling the client to not file a defamation suit or not send that demand letter, because it could be kicking the hornet's nest. Now, sometimes you have to take action and you have to say enough is enough, and you are trashing my name, and I'm going to vindicate my name, and that's what Andrea did. And but there's two sides to every coin, and that is certainly one you have to consider. And TJ has become an expert at really dealing with how do you deal with someone's reputation online.
And so do you think then, to make this more of a global application, we have the rise of the influencer. That is the business model on Instagram. I have been influenced and bought skincare products from influencers. Yes, I am a millennial, one of those people. And so anyway, I mean, these women have humongous platforms. So do you think it would be part of the due diligence of some of these influencers with massive platforms to spend a good amount of money, not just on contracts, but also on maybe, say, a defamation boot camp with someone like y'all in order to understand what, as a general guideline, they should maybe be aware of when they post, especially when you're posting to stories, right? I mean, it's so easy just to click 5-second video and boom, stories. So.
Well, if you're asking a lawyer whether someone should hire a lawyer, you know what I'm going to say. But of course, we all need to surround ourselves with people that are smarter than us in that specific area. I do it, TJ does it, you guys do it, right? Accountants, I don't do tax. You name the area. I've got someone, TJ has someone that we trust to guide us in that area. And this just happens to be our area. And our area is the law. And in particular, we happen to become very versed on a specific type of claim, which is now is as hot as ever because of the social media influencer. And certainly, anyone could, that takes some time, that hires the right people that they trust to educate themselves and to guide them on the do's and don'ts and how to avoid getting into the situation in the beginning. And sometimes maybe you can't, but how you react to it. And when you react, what do you say? Those types of things, absolutely. I think more and more influencers are.
Well, I gotta jump in and say real quick, if y'all do the defamation boot camp, I think Andre and I get some kind of a royalty or something.
Or at least a guest appearance.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to be a little more aggressive with that. So real quick before we switch gears, because I know there's another aspect of this we want to talk about. TJ, I'd like to ask you, just big picture here, if you had to give our audience a couple key lessons they should know about or walk away from this episode with about defamation, what would those be?
Dave, you want to go first?
Well, TJ, if you're going to let me talk, I absolutely I think the key, if we're going to talk specifically about F-Factor, I think the point here is be careful. Be careful about what you're reposting of what about other people say, because you posting what other people say can get you in hot water, can get you sued. That isn't to say that, we're not here to chill people's free speech, to limit someone's right to post what's happened to them, to leave a review, an opinion about what's happened to them. But the point is to be careful, to be tactful. Don't be a tiger behind a keyboard, and think about what you say and whether you're saying the truth, whether you've done your due diligence about what you're reposting of someone else. And no, because, TJ and I sell a service that people don't want. No one wants to sue or get sued. Austin, Andrea, you guys know this. I mean, everybody wants to call, their badass lawyer, Austin. Everybody wants to call, but when it comes down to being in litigation, it sucks. And you don't want to find yourself there. So I think the overarching theme is be careful what you post, be careful what you write. Someone's always listening and someone's always reading it.
TJ, do you have any final words of wisdom in terms of takeaways that you want to add on to what Dave gave us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing to take away from this presentation is the fact that if you are an influencer, if you have any sort of platform, even if you just own a business, your word carries weight. And so it is important when you're looking at your platform to understand the impact of your words. And so to understand the impact of what you post online, what you say in public, all of those things can be used against you. And so if you say something online, be prepared to deal with the repercussions. And so whether that means having a good relationship with attorneys, whether that means, thoroughly vetting the things that you're adopting, that's important, because anything that you repost is adopted as your statement. And so that is, when the world of Instagram influencers who, content is king, they're always looking for new content. But it's just, be careful, because the things that you say potentially can come back to bite you.
Wise words, and I hope our listeners are taking notes on that. So switching tracks here, I wanted to discuss products liability. In a nutshell, what is products liability generally?
Well, Dave, I'll take this one if that's okay with you. Product liability is, it's something that is often said in legal terms. Well, they can get sued for products liability. That can mean a ton of different things. So that can mean a class action. That can mean a mass tort. There are a lot of different ways that a company can be held accountable for their product and the damage that their product causes. And that's what, when we talk about products liability, that's all it is attempting to hold a company liable for the damage caused by its product.
So we've seen this with the Fen-Phen diet pills back in the 90s, the Dow Corning rupturing silicone breast implants. We've seen it with car and auto parts, airplane parts. I mean, it seems like this covers a wide spectrum of products, if you will, right? So if a powder is really bad and maybe causing these things, could it theoretically possibly fall into a products liability lawsuit or category?
Yeah, absolutely. It could absolutely be the subject of a lawsuit. Dave and I often say that anybody can sue anybody for anything at any time. Now, whether that lawsuit has merit, whether that lawsuit actually has legs and can get in front of a jury, that's going to depend on, what comes out in discovery. But when you talk about, can the company be sued for harm their product causes? Absolutely. And if you've got plaintiffs, you've got people that were harmed by a diet drug. We've seen that in the past. And so they can absolutely conceivably be sued for the damage their product causes.
Austin, do you want to have any more questions on the products liability end of things?
Well, and I think what's important to understand too is we talked about the terms of class action, and I know, when the four of us were having this conversation, before we got on here, we talked about how difficult that actually is. Dave, you want to give our listeners just a brief little layman's description of what a class action lawsuit actually is and how difficult it is to make one of those kind of run the table and actually recover settlement from?
That's right. I mean, class actions are where, there's the sort of the race to sue the company that made the drug or the product, to be the first plaintiff and to file it as a class action under the rules of the procedure for, whether it's federal or for a certain state. So you're trying to add plaintiffs to the class, have people sign up. And what you see in the elements to get a class action, to allow for a judge to allow it to be a class, what's called to certify a class, is it's a commonality of factors, commonality of injury. You're all dealing with the same product, similar symptoms or a range of symptoms, similar types of harm caused by it, of course, at different ranges. But it's extremely difficult. Most class actions never get to trial. Most of them are settled. They're rarely tried. And so it is extremely difficult. And I'd also say that for this particular one, where you've got a big influencer that is, making large representations and selling the diet and its characteristics, what it can do. There's, in many states, you have what's called deceptive trade practices, statutes, laws that give consumers a cause of action based on misrepresentation, mismarketing, representing things that a product does when it doesn't do it. And there's also the possibility of those types of claims here as well. And I'm sure that the F-Factors, as well as they've done, they've got a team of lawyers that are ready for it. They've been preparing for any type of lawsuit that can come, because with success comes litigation, and they've obviously had a lot of success.
Clearly, she's had a lot of success. I mean, look at where she's at today, right? My gosh, they even sell these intentions bracelets. I mean, it doesn't say what would Tanya do, but I mean, might as well. So.
Well, kind of like Dave said, and I'm not picking sides here on the diet or for the diet,
Oh,
not
I'll
against
pick
the diet.
sides, and I'll tell you.
That's fine. I don't know enough about it to pick the diet, but like Dave kind of said, you're not really doing anything until you finally get yourself sued. So
That's a
makes
good
sense.
point. That is a good point. All right. Well, gentlemen, do we have any last words of wisdom today? I mean, you already spilled so much information about defamation and products liability and class actions, and how it kind of pulling back the veil, and how those things aren't as easy to get your hands on as your favorite, Law and Order show might have you think. But, any last words for our listeners here?
I'd recommend that anyone get an English bulldog. My English bulldog, Mac, is the best thing that ever happened to me. He is 10 years old. He's at the office often. He runs the show, and my words of wisdom would be English bulldogs are the best dogs that you can buy.
Okay, does he have an Instagram? Inquiring minds want to know.
Well, you can find him on my Instagram. He has
Come on, Dave.
He is the namesake of a bar that some lawyer friends and I co-own called Max Southside.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Affiliated with Zalat Pizza. So if you like Zalat Pizza, you like Max Southside, you come see a picture of Mac on the wall. And so, yeah, I've best dog I've ever owned, and he surprisingly loves TJ.
Aww. TJ, that's a ringing endorsement.
Yeah. So was the question was, last words here?
Yes, last words of wisdom.
I really think, words of wisdom for us. I really think that the only thing that I say is that, as we deal with tons of small businesses that are looking to grow their reputation, grow their platform, and protect that reputation. Biggest thing I can say is do what you can to grow smart. Have relationships in the community with lawyers who can help you if it pops up. Get a good PR firm. We often work with PR firms who are already helping the company manage their reputation, doing social media work, things like that, and be intentional about who you're put in charge of what your company is saying, right? Don't put the intern in charge of the social media account. Be intentional. Get someone involved that can help you with that reputation and with your social media, because more and more that is what people look at. They don't look at your company's website. They look at your social media. And so that's final word.
Preach.
Well, Dave, real quick, if you could tell our listeners, where can they find more information about y'all's firm and about what y'all do?
Absolutely. cwl.law. That's our website. Stands for Crawford Wishnew and Lang. cwl.law. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, I guess. But you can find us on our website. We're publicly visible. We're careful about what we put online. We try to practice what we preach. But yeah, www.cwl.law.
Awesome.
Well, and Dave, you guys have been giving us a whole lot of information and advice today. I'm going to give you one piece of advice. You see all these influencers, their dogs become famous. Come on, man. Get Mac his own Instagram page. Let's start getting the posts up there. Let's get the followers going. Come on, let's get him famous.
I will be the first to follow Mac's Instagram. He's a pretty cute dog.
Deal. All right, deal. You got it.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having
guys.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Defamation, products liability, class action, and the fact, the biggest takeaway is that you should get an English bulldog. Okay, one of the biggest takeaways. Anyway, thanks y'all for listening. Tune in next time.
Thanks, guys.
And also, stay put for our closing arguments. We have a famous individual from The Bachelor in the news and a tracking device.
Thank you guys again for listening to us here on #Lawyered. Go find us on whatever platform it is that you listen to your podcast. Go like the podcast, go follow and subscribe to us. Leave us a review, leave us a rating. That helps us to really get the word out and really continue to tell you guys about all the different things that are going on in law and business here in Dallas. Make sure you check out our videos on our YouTube channel. It's #Lawyered. And then also follow us on our Instagram account. It's at #Lawyered. DM us, send us some issues, some topics you'd like to discuss, or some things that maybe you just don't understand about the law, because we want to make sure and cover and give you what it is you want to listen to.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our closing arguments, where we get to talk about fun, scandalous things that we didn't quite get to cover in the main portion of the show. So today, my tea that I am spilling for you is all about Colton Underwood, former Bachelor star and NFL player, and how he and his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Randolph, are in the middle of things, and he has been slapped with a restraining order. That is right, a restraining order, which means I believe he can't get within about 100 feet or so of his ex-girlfriend. And to make matters even more spicy, yes, even more spicy than a good old-fashioned restraining order, Ms. Randolph says that he has allegedly, well, I'm saying allegedly, right, because, I don't want to get in trouble here, slapped a GPS tracking device to the bottom of her car. And all I'm going to say is, if she found it, that must have been a really, really bad tracking job placement. So anyways, stay tuned and let us know if you want any more information about this Bachelor debacle. And stay tuned for the next episode of #Lawyered. Thanks for listening, y'all. Bye.